Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, as always, Miguel Magallon. And as always, President, Founder, CEO of Magallon Entertainment. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. So, once again, my wife's still feeling sick this week, so I'm out here picking up my son from school. This will probably be the last day I do it. I don't know if I'll have to do it tomorrow or not, but fuck it. I'm here, been picking him up from school, trying to be a good dad all week. You know, market's been kind of flat, so I haven't really need to be on its ass on, every second, every minute. So I decided, you know what? Market just closed, wasn't that much price action today. Let me help out my wife for today, and pick up my son from school, so that way she can stay home and rest, and let me answer some of these text messages, some of these emails I'm getting from some of these bitch ass subscribers. And so I was driving here, I got here, popped open my inbox, and the question for today is, General, what do I do with my Bitcoin? My homie said it's going to zero. What do I do? I'm like, who the fuck is your pinche homie? What fucking homie? You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck are you listening to? Like, who are these people in your lives, America, that you guys keep listening to? So let's talk about it. First of all, I want to start this little session here with this. Rule number one in Magallon Entertainment. You are not allowed to listen to poor people. You are not allowed to listen to broke people. You are not allowed to listen to people who still live with their mom. You're not allowed to listen to people who live with their in-laws because they can't get their wife and kids their own place. You're not allowed to listen to people who are drowning in credit card debt. You are not allowed to listen to people who can't even pay their own motherfucking bills. You are not allowed to listen to people who work paycheck to paycheck on their hands and fucking knees and still can't make it out the fucking hood. You are not allowed to listen to people who have spent their entire fucking lives, their entire adult life, their whole fucking life as fucking losers. You're not allowed to listen to those people anymore. Instead, the only people you're allowed to listen to, outside of myself, are people who are millionaires and billionaires. People who have been there and done there. People who have made it out the struggle. People who have made it out the hood. People who own their own fucking paychecks. You are only allowed to listen to CEOs and multimillionaires. You're only allowed to listen to people who are more successful than you. And not a little bit more successful than you. I'm talking about a lot more successful than you. Because sometimes you have people at work or in your life that are a little bit ahead in life than you, that are a little bit further along than you, that have a little bit of fucking, equity built up, and they think they fucking made it. They think that's the end of the fucking road. They think they made it to the finish line. Like, bitch, if you're still showing up to work Monday through Friday, working paycheck to paycheck, you ain't fucking there yet. So how about everyone else just shut the fuck up and sit down somewhere? So, that's rule number one. We're not listening to fucking losers. We're not listening to baosos. We're not listening to mentirosos. We're not listening to sanganos. We're not listening to broke bitches. We're not listening to poor people. And we don't listen to anyone in life who has a supervisor that tells them when and what to do. That's rule number fucking one. Rule number two is we're only going to be listening to people who have actually made money doing the things that we want to do, right? So, for example, and I always tell this to like clients and friends, and when I'm at social events and meetings, I always say this, and it's true, I really mean it, but I always say, when for those of you guys who are parents, when my daughter is sick, or my daughter has a fever, or my daughter has a cold, or my son isn't feeling well, or my son needs to go to the hospital, or one of my kids has to go to the emergency room and we have to go to the ER at 2-3 o'clock in the morning because their fever keeps burning up, or they keep coughing and they're throwing up. If you're a parent, or you have nieces and nephews, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. But sometimes like the kids are like super sick at night, and you don't know if you should just wait till the next day or if you should just take them to the emergency room then. Um, when my kids go through something like that, when my family goes through something like that, when me and my wife are, you know, getting ready and putting on our shoes and getting the kids dressed, and you know, we're taking our son, our daughter to the hospital, to the ER room, to the emergency room visits. When we do stuff like that, it's because we're seeking medical attention from a medical professional. That makes sense. But what me and my wife are not about to do is take our daughter or our son when they're not feeling well and go take them to Walmart or Jiffy Lube or to the mechanic. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not about to pop up to Jiffy Lube or fucking Midas to get the Midas touch, whatever the fuck that means these days. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take them to AutoZone and be like, hey, bro, at AutoZone, my daughter's not feeling too well. What do you think I should do? Do you think the guy at AutoZone knows what the fuck he's talking about? You think the guy at AutoZone is qualified to give me and my wife medical, you know, recommendations? You think the guy at AutoZone even knows what the fuck, you know what I mean, to do when a kid has a fever or a kid is throwing up? You know what I mean? Or a kid is just feeling like super nauseous? Like, do you think the guy at AutoZone should be the first guy I go to? Do you think the guy at Jiffy Lube has any experience in this? Do you think the person that works over there at fucking Circle K is the best person to go to for advice? No. You go to a fucking hospital. You go to a fucking emergency room and you talk to a nurse. You talk to a doctor. You talk to medical fucking professionals. Well, it's the same thing with anything else, right? Because when my car starts breaking down and all of a sudden the engine starts to make, you know, some weird sounds, and sometimes the car won't turn on, sometimes it does, sometimes the brakes don't work like they should, sometimes, you know, I feel like there's something going on with the transmission, because sometimes when I'm trying to go to second gear to third gear, it's not fucking switching gears right. Sometimes it stalls out when I'm on the road. Sometimes it stalls out when I'm driving. Sometimes the engine is fucking like making these weird noises. Sometimes the brake pads are fucking screeching. Sometimes, you know what I mean, the car is fucking shaking and vibrating like there's something going on. You know, sometimes there's smoke coming out the engine. When shit like that happens, when you got smoke coming out the hood of your car, do you think the first place I'm going to go to is the fucking hospital? Think I'm gonna go there and be like, nurse, there's something going on with my car. There's smoke coming out and it keeps making all these weird sounds and noises and it keeps shaking. I don't know what to do. Nurse, what do you think? Do you think the nurse is over there gonna pop open the trunk and start giving me mechanical advice? I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying, do you really think that's the best place to go? You really think that's probably like pit stop number one? You guys see me? You guys see what I'm saying? When there's something fucked up with your car, do you go to your kid's pediatrician? No. But when your kids are sick, do you go to fucking Jiffy Lube or AutoZone? No. You guys see my point? When you want real estate advice, when you want real estate opinions, when you want real estate recommendation, you go to who? A fucking real estate person, a real estate expert, right? That's who you go to. We all know that, right? At least we should. The only difference I'm saying is, if you're going to go talk to a real estate agent, talk to someone that's made millions in real estate, not thousands. That's all I'm saying, America. If you're going to talk to someone about Bitcoin, talk to someone who actually owns Bitcoins with a motherfucking S. Not someone that owns $30 worth of fucking Ethereum. You guys see my point? So now that we're all on the same page here this afternoon, America, I want to talk about Bitcoin. And I want to talk about some of you guys, not some of you guys who are frustrated, some of you guys who are worried, some of you guys who are fucking, have anxiety tonight, some of you guys who are dealing with fucking depression, some of you guys who are fucking scared it's going to go to zero, some of you guys who are fucking, mad or upset, whether it's at me, the podcast, or the fucking YouTuber, for those of you guys who are just, going through an emotional roller coaster right now, because Bitcoin's been, whooping your ass and, beating the shit out of you, these last many, many months for like over a year now, just nonstop fucking down, down, down. I wanted to talk to you guys and give you guys, a session to hopefully make you guys feel better and to put things in perspective and, At the end of this clip, you're either going to feel better about everything, and you're going to be more motivated, and you're going to be more energized, and you're going to be more fucking all in, or you're going to say, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm done with the general. Fuck this motherfucker. I'm going to go back to listening to what the homie says. So we'll see what happens at the end of this clip, but give me the next 20-25 minutes to try to convince you or change your mind. Here we go. So Bitcoin, do I still, let's start with the big question. Do I believe that small accounts, I don't want to say small people, because then you guys, get butthurt and take it up the ass, especially you snowflake motherfuckers, but, do I still recommend that people buy Bitcoin here and now? Do I still recommend that people invest their money in Bitcoin today? Do I still believe that people should be all in on Bitcoin? Do I believe that people should still put all their money in their portfolio in Bitcoin? Do I believe that people should, be 100%, allocated to Bitcoin? Do I believe that, Bitcoin is like the only thing they should invest in when they're first starting out investing? Yes, still do. I don't think that's going to change until probably 2024. I might change my opinion in 2024, but right now in 2022 and 2023, it's going to stay the same. It's going to remain the same. And here's why. First off, let me address the question, because when I say go 100% Bitcoin or be 100% Bitcoin or put all your money in Bitcoin and keep investing in Bitcoin every single paycheck, every single pay period, every single time, you get paid by your bitch ass supervisor, and just go nonstop, just keep stacking more and more sats, as you can, keep investing more and more money into Bitcoin, until you own one full Bitcoin. The reason I say that, first and foremost, right, because I want to make sure I contextualize this and I give you guys full transparency. The reason I say that is because you guys frame the question like this. General, what would you do if you had to start all over again? General, what would you do if you had to start from nothing from the bottom up again? What would you do if you had to start from the beginning again with no money? What would you do if you had to start, from scratch? What would you do if you had to start from the beginning? What would you do if, you were me and you didn't have a lot of money, you didn't have a big portfolio, you didn't have this, you didn't have that? What would you do if, you were me? What would you do if you were in my position? What would you do if you were in my shoes? You guys always ask that, like, what would I do? And then I tell you guys what I would do. And maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't. I'm just telling you, that's what I would do. So for me, if I had to start all over again, if my brokerage account was empty and I was at $0 and I had nothing in my account and I was broke as shit, I was broke as fuck, I barely made any money, I had limited disposable income, and you know what I mean? I was just trying to invest, $100, $200, $300, a month, couple hundred here, couple hundred there, and I was just struggling to get by. I was struggling to make it. And you know what I mean? I was just trying to find a way out, trying to find a long-term solution. What would I do? That's what I would do. I would do everything I could on earth, everything I could financially to own one entire Bitcoin. And then once I owned one entire Bitcoin, that's when I would start diversifying my portfolio. That's when I would start diversifying my assets. That's when I would start diversifying into other investments. But the first investment I would make, right, like actual investment that, I intend to sell and cash out one day and live off of the gains and profits, right? The first actual, like, long-term asset I would go for would be Bitcoin, right? And especially here at like this 15, 20,000 price. Now, to be clear, again, context and transparency, this has been my advice to subscribers and clients and friends and families and relatives. This has been my advice when, Bitcoin was like 1,000, when it was 2,000, when it was 3,000, when it was 4,000, when it was 5,000, when it was 10,000, and this is advice that was given to me when Bitcoin was 100 and 200 and 300 and 400 and 500. So now I'm just kind of like paying that forward. So that would be my advice. Now, why would that be my advice? Why am I so adamant? Why am I so bullish? Why am I so, what would the word be? Why am I so, aggressive and ruthless and dedicated and committed and just fucking, all in when it comes to this shit? It's pretty simple, because Bitcoin to me is the ultimate yes or no decision. Bitcoin to me is the ultimate yes or no question. Bitcoin to me is the ultimate yes or no answer. Bitcoin to me is the ultimate yes or no. And what I mean by that is every single person in the entire Bitcoin universe is being asked the same question. And we've been trying to answer this question for like over 10 years now, but the question remains. Will Bitcoin go above $1 million? That's the question, ladies and gentlemen. That is the question. Will Bitcoin go above $1 million? And I bet you right now, if you ask like 1 million people in the world, not all of them are going to agree. If you asked 1 million people in the world right here today, right now today, if you asked 1 million people, all over the world and all across the country, this exact same question, then they're all going to give you a different answer. Some are going to say no. Some are going to say it's going to go to zero. Some are going to say it's worthless. Some are going to say it's stupid. Some are going to say it's a scam. Some are going to say it's a hustle. Some are going to call it a Ponzi scheme. Some are call it a pyramid thing. Like everyone, there's going to be a lot of people who are bearish and who are negative and who are anti-Bitcoin. There's going to be a shit ton of people who are just like that. And then on the other hand, you're going to get a fucking tsunami of people that are going to try to tell you and convince you that Bitcoin is the truth, Bitcoin is the future, Bitcoin is the prophecy, Bitcoin is the ultimate investment, Bitcoin is the greatest asset class, Bitcoin is the greatest innovation and the greatest technology, in human history. And you're going to get all these Bitcoin, maxi bulls that are going to tell you it's the greatest creation, by mankind. It's this, it's that, which at the end of the day, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I think for the most part, most of you don't give a shit. Most of you don't give a fuck if it is or isn't. You just want to know if you're going to make money on it. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I don't think a lot of you guys really care about Bitcoin, the technology. I think a lot of you guys really don't give a fuck about Bitcoin, the fucking, like all the use cases. I think for a lot of you guys, you probably don't even care if Bitcoin eventually becomes a global currency or not. I think for most of you guys listening to me tonight, the only thing you really care about, the only thing you give a fuck about is, are you going to make money on Bitcoin or not? Are you going to get rich on Bitcoin or not? Is Bitcoin going to help you get to financial freedom or not? Is it going to help you retire early or not? Is Bitcoin a great investment or not? I think for the vast majority of you guys listening to me tonight, that's kind of like the only question that matters. That's the only question you guys care about. And that's the only thing you guys care about, in my opinion, right? So with that being said, that to me is what makes it the greatest yes or no in the history of the world. Because that's what everyone is debating, that's what everyone is asking, and that's what everyone is trying to figure out. What everyone wants to know is this the future? Is this the truth? Is this the solution? Is it going to go above $1 million or is it going to go to zero? And I think what's really interesting about this question is, I think what everyone agrees on, and this is my opinion, I think what everyone does agree on is Bitcoin is not going to go sideways. Bitcoin is not going to stay flat. Bitcoin is not one of those things that's going to make it to 500,000 and stay there for 500 years. Bitcoin is extremely volatile. Bitcoin is probably the most volatile asset class in history, for sure, among many other things. But I think at the very least, the bulls and the bears will agree. Bitcoin is a fucking volatile bitch. She is fucking volatile. She is aggressive. She is ruthless. That bitch is bipolar as hell. One day she's happy, one day she's mad. One day she's fucking, jumping up and down. The other day she's fucking sad and depressed. This bitch has mood swings. You know what I mean? And what do I always tell you on the podcast? To me, Bitcoin is the baddest bitch on the planet. But just like every other bad bitch, she fucking drives you crazy. And Bitcoin is no different. So to me, I look at Bitcoin and I see something that it's either going to explode or it's going to implode. It's either going to make it or it's going to fail. It's either going to skyrocket or it's going to tank. It's either going to make it, it's either going to go to the stratosphere and the edge of space, or it's going to go fall off a cliff and go into the depths of hell. It's either going to go into fucking, it's either going to infinity, or, it's going to the mortuary. It's one of the two. And I think that's something that, at the very least, I think there's a lot of common ground in. Because I don't think the Bitcoin bulls or the Bitcoin bears are willing to say that Bitcoin is something that can be stable. Bitcoin is something that can be stabilized. I don't think anybody says that. Not the bulls or the bears, right? So therefore, I don't think anyone will really say Bitcoin can go to like $200,000-$300,000 or even $200-$300 and just stay there. Bitcoin is too fucking volatile. Bitcoin can never stay at the same price forever. Bitcoin can't even stay at the same price for 5 fucking minutes. That's why a lot of you guys have to check the price of Bitcoin like every 15 seconds. Because Bitcoin's changing on a second by second basis. So because of that, because Bitcoin is so volatile, because Bitcoin never stops moving, because there's always something that's, pushing Bitcoin down or pushing Bitcoin higher, because Bitcoin is so fucking volatile and it just continues to either skyrocket or tank on a yearly basis, right? On an annualized basis, it's not going to be something that, goes to the middle of 0 and 1 million, gets to 500,000 and just sits there on its ass and does nothing. It's either going to blow past 500,000 and go straight to 1 million, or it's going to hit 500,000 and just fucking, just die, flame out. But it's going to be one of the two. So because of that, you then have to decide as an investor or a trader, if you think you can trade Bitcoin in short-term cycles. As a Bitcoin investor, though, you have to make the decision. You have to answer that question for yourself. Is Bitcoin going to go to 1 million and above, or is it going to go to 0 and fail and die? You have to answer that question as a Bitcoin investor. Now, you guys know my answer. You guys know my opinion. You guys know my belief. You know what I mean? I'm a long-term Bitcoin bull. I'm a long-term Bitcoin mega bull. I am a Bitcoin believer. I am a Bitcoin enthusiast. And I am a Bitcoin fucking general. And I will stand here on this fucking mountaintop and I will continue to tell my soldiers and teach my soldiers that for many of them, this is the way. Now, am I telling you Bitcoin's going to be the greatest investment in history? No, and it probably isn't. So there'll be something else that comes down later on the road. Or maybe it's something that exists right now. Maybe it's an Apple, maybe it's a Tesla. Who the fuck knows, right? But there'll always be something. And maybe in the future there's something that's, a better long-term investment than Bitcoin. We never know with these things. So I'm not saying Bitcoin will continue to be and will forever be the greatest investment, in human history. But what I am saying is it's going to be probably one of the greatest investments and easiest investments that many of you guys can make today in your lives. Because if Bitcoin goes to $1 million and above, right? Because once it breaks 1 million, I think that's when the ceiling is officially broken. I think for many bulls, we look at $1 million as kind of like an artificial glass ceiling. Because the belief is if it can hit $1 million and crack it, if it can touch $1 million per Bitcoin and break it, if and when that happens, it basically goes limitless. After that, it can go 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 100 million. There is basically no limit after that. Once Bitcoin breaks past $1 million, there is no ceiling. There is no limit. There is no fucking, there is no handicap. After that, it's just fucking, it literally is infinity after that. After that, it's limitless potential. So if you're a Bitcoin bull like me, you see that, you hear that, you visualize that, and you say, okay, I think it's going to break past $1 million one day. I think it's going to be worth at least $1 million one day. Now, if you think it's worthless and it's stupid and it's all fucking a Ponzi scheme and a scam, and you think it's a hustle, and you think it's going to go down to like a penny tomorrow or eventually, and it's going to go bankrupt and it's going to go to 0, then don't invest in it. I give you guys a bunch of great long-term investments. I don't think you have to be a genius. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist. I don't think you have to be the smartest guy in the world to know that investing in Tesla for the long term is a good solution. I don't think you guys have to be a rocket scientist or an engineer or a fucking computer programmer to know that Apple's probably a great investment, Amazon's a great investment, Tesla's a great investment, Google's a great investment, Microsoft's a great investment, Disney stock, Walmart stock, Costco stock, right? Like you don't have to have a PhD in finances or a PhD in engineering or a PhD in computer science or a PhD in mathematics or a master's degree in business or a law degree or a med school degree or an IQ of a fucking million. You don't need to be the smartest guy in the room, the smartest guy in the planet, the smartest guy in the world, the smartest guy in the building. You don't have to be a fucking astronaut or an astrophysicist. You don't have to be smart at all to understand that Amazon in the long term is a great long-term investment opportunity. Apple in the long term is a great long-term investment opportunity. Microsoft, Google, Tesla, fuck, if you believe in the metaverse and you believe in Facebook, you can even throw Facebook in there. There's a lot of great companies and a lot of great stocks out there that can make you a fuck ton of money over the next 5 to 10 years. And if we're being honest, there's already been a fuck ton and a shit ton of companies over the last 5 to 10 years that have made a ton of people a ton of fucking money, a shit ton of money, right? And I think a lot of those stocks and a lot of those companies and those investments will continue to make a shit ton and a fuck ton of investors a shit ton and a fuck ton of money, right? And some will and some won't, right? Just because it's been a great investment the last 10 years doesn't mean it'll be a great investment the next 10 years. But in my opinion, some of them will. Some of them are absolutely going to do the exact same thing. They will continue to print money. They will continue to compound their stock. They will continue to grow their stock. And they will continue to help create millionaires who are willing to invest in their company's stock for today and invest in it for the future. That's absolutely going to happen. Maybe not with every single one, but with many of them, yeah. So you don't need to invest in Bitcoin to become a millionaire. You don't need to invest in Bitcoin to become financially free or financially independent. You don't need to, or have to invest in Bitcoin because that's going to be your only way out. But the reason I recommend it is because I think for some of you, it probably is. For some of you, it probably will be. And at the very least, for many of you, it's at least the easiest. Because if this thing hits 1 million, like I believe it will, I believe it can and it will and it should. If it hits 1 million and you're buying it now at 20,000, you're basically getting like a 50x on your portfolio. You're getting a 50x on your investment. And by the way, if this thing does end up, going down to 10,000 and you end up investing in some at 10,000, then from 10,000 to 1 million is what? A fucking 100x. So I think at a bare minimum, you guys, if you invest, between 10,000 to 20,000, you're going to get anywhere between a 50x to a 100x return on your investment. Now, is it going to go to $1 million today? No. Is it going to go to $1 million tomorrow? No. Is it going to go to $1 million next year? No. Our opinion in the Bitcoin community, in the Bitcoin fucking world, is we're going to see $1 million Bitcoin probably at the end of this decade. That's kind of been our opinion and our belief for a long time, that sometime by 2030, maybe sooner, maybe a little bit later, but roughly 2030 is the goalpost, right? And these things can always move. We can always get there sooner rather than later, or we can get there like a year or two late, whatever the case may be. But 2030 is roughly the goalpost. It's the target date. And by 2030, we're hoping to either be at $1 million Bitcoin or be close to $1 million Bitcoin. Which means if we get to 2030 and Bitcoin is trading at like 6, 7, 800,000, we're not going to say the world is over. We're going to say, okay, we probably need an extra year or two, but we're almost fucking there. But, simply put, we believe by the end of this decade, we're going to see $1 million Bitcoin. We could be right, we could be wrong, but we have millions of reasons to believe it will, and the bears have millions of reasons to believe it won't, right? And so rather than tell you the millions of reasons why it will or a million reasons why it won't, I'll let you guys do that research. But I'll just tell you based on my research, I believe it will. And because I believe it'll hit $1 million and above per Bitcoin by the end of this decade, 2030, I look at it and I feel like if you're buying between 10,000 and 20,000, you're going to get a 50x and a 100x return on your investment. And I think the only people, I think the only people who are probably mad at that or upset at that are the people who weren't buying when it was between 1,000 and 5,000, because those people are going to get somewhere between a 1,000x and a 2,000x return on their investment. So right now, I think the risk reward is still to the upside. Like I said, if you're a bear and you just don't believe in any of this nonsense and you think it's all a bunch of bullshit, then don't invest in it, right? No one's forcing you to. No one's making you to. You guys ask me for my opinion and my advice. This is my opinion and my advice. I think we're going to see $1 million Bitcoin by the end of this decade, and I firmly believe that. So because of that, I understand that $10,000 is a lot of money. I understand that $12,000 is a lot of money. I understand that $13,000 is a lot of money. $14,000 is a lot of money. $15,000 of money. And that $16,000 is a shit ton of money. I get it. I'm not telling you that $14,000, $15,000, $16,000 is cheap, right? But at the same time, I was also telling you guys to buy Bitcoin in 2020 when it was $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and $6,000. I was the same ones trying to tell people back, when I was at community college, I was telling them to buy it at 200, 300, 400. And no one wanted to buy it when it was 200, 300, 400. No one wanted to buy it when it was 600, 700, 800. No one wanted to buy it when it was 900. No one wanted to buy it when it's 1,000. No one wanted to buy it when it was 5,000. No one even wanted to buy it when we were 10,000 back in 2020. Until now, at 2022, people are bitching that I'm recommending it at 20,000. I'm like, bro, it's not my fault that you waited so long. It's not my fault that you didn't buy it sooner. Let's not act like fucking Bitcoin was created yesterday. Let's not act like I'm the first person in your life to ever recommend Bitcoin to you. Chances are you've had dozens, if not hundreds of people throughout the course of your life recommend Bitcoin to you, telling you to buy Bitcoin, invest in Bitcoin, and put money in Bitcoin. But time and time again, you told them to fuck off. Time and time again, you told them no thanks. Time and time again, you told them, nah, bro, I'm good. And finally, you probably came across my podcast. You ran into the one, the only, the motherfucking general. And you finally had someone that didn't take no for an answer. And you finally had someone in your life who put their foot up your fucking ass. And then you said, okay, cálmate, way. Fuck, I'll buy the pinche Bitcoin and the pinche Bitcoin. Stop yelling at me already. And I think by the end of the decade, we're going to find out if I led you to financial freedom and financial independence, or if I fucked everyone over, right? But that's a big fucking gamble on my part. And guess what? I'm 100% comfortable, right? I own as many Bitcoins as I own. I own a fuck ton of them right now. But the reason I own so many fucking Bitcoins is because that's how much I fucking believe in it. The reason I own so many fucking Bitcoins is because that's how much of a believer I am in it. The reason I own so many fucking Bitcoins is because that's how much I believe. It's not only going to hit $1 million per Bitcoin one day, but it's going to blast through that. And that's just my opinion. That's just my belief. That's my philosophy. That's my mentality. And that's my fucking, that's my vision right now. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very binary bet. It's yes or no, and it's the greatest yes or no question of our lifetime. It's the greatest yes or no question on Wall Street. It's the greatest yes or no question, ever invented, in my opinion. Because if it does get to $1 million, if it does break past $1 million, it is going to create more millionaires and billionaires in the world than any other asset class in human history. And if it doesn't, then it's going to be one of the biggest disasters, one of the greatest debacles, and one of the most massive letdowns in human history, at least financial history. You guys see my point? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's my opinion, that's my belief, that's my message to you guys tonight. You guys have to decide if you're a believer or you're not. You guys have to decide if you guys are with this or you're not. You guys have to decide if you want to be invested in it or not. You have to decide, yes or no, will Bitcoin hit $1 million by the end of the decade? And if so, again, if we're right and the bulls fucking nail this and we hit $1 million by the end of this decade, $1 million no longer becomes the finish line. Once it hits $1 million, it's officially the start of a brand new starting line. And then after that, that's when we start talking about 5 million, 10 million, and 100 million. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for listening to the one, the only, the motherfucking general. I'm not here to tell you you have to buy Bitcoin. I'm not here to tell you that Bitcoin is your only way out. I'm just here to tell you that if I were you, I would be doing everything I fucking humanly could possible to own one entire Bitcoin. Because if I'm right, it'll be the easiest and fastest way for any of you to become a millionaire. And if I'm wrong, then you never have to listen to me or anyone else in Bitcoin ever again. It's a risk reward, ladies and gentlemen. It's all a bet, it's all a gamble. You have to decide how much you're willing to risk. But me, I'm willing to risk it all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for listening to the one, the only, the motherfucking general.